Hello, hello. If we're live, hi there. Let me know if you can see me. Here we go. Let's make sure connections are good. Yes. Hi there. Hi, Cello. How are you? Busy, busy, busy day for me today. I keep looking at the wrong thing. Hi. Sorry. Okay, it is 10:03. We'll give it a few more minutes for folks to come on, and then we'll start. Ah, hi, folks. It'll be a nice, I think, really informative session today and an important one, considering how important sunscreens are. But if you are on, please let me know if you can hear me well, see me well. Um, Weather today in Pasig, maybe. For us, it's actually cloudy. I think it's going to rain again. So at least it's cooler, but it's really incredibly humid still. Um, but it's nice having a little bit of drop in temperature because the last several weeks were really brutal in terms of heat. We had a live stream last night. Hi, Jana! Yay! We had a live stream last night in Nepal. So that was interesting. Also, because the influencer who interviewed me was so young, I felt like such a grandma, which is not a bad thing. But I wanted to make sure, you know, I, I didn't alienate, I guess, such young viewers. But it was fun. It was really fun. Great questions out of Nepal. Um, we shall see. Hi, Nina. Yes, cooler today, but humid, humid, humid. And I'm managing my time. I have back to back to back to back to back everything today. So I'm trying to make sure I, emanate calm. Okay, it is 10:05. We'll give it a few more minutes and let other people come on in. Sally's here. Hi. Okay, yeah, we'll give it just a few more minutes and then we'll get started. This is going to be nice, I think, because sunscreens are so important. Um, and I think there's been sort of new developments, and I think there's some old confusions still that are around. So it'd be nice to address them and make sure people stay healthy and stuff. Okay, maybe give it another 2 more minutes or so. Sally, where are you watching from? I know Nina's in Bulacan, Jana's in Utah, Chelo's in Pasig. There we go. Okay, making sure everything is working. Yeah, wait 1 more minute and then we can start. So we have enough time for everyone's questions today. Quezon City, QC. Thank you. I don't know what the weather is like. Ooh, the sun just came out. That's nice. Over here, I'm in Makati and it's hi Tammy in Maryland. Interesting. Someone in the live stream last night so it was a live stream in Nepal. And one of the viewers was from Maryland too, and I was like, I wonder if that's Tammy. But yeah, where I am in Makati, it was actually quite cloudy, and I was convinced it was going to rain. And it is cooler, but the humidity is off the charts. So Laguna, hi. It is now 10:07 in the morning. Thank you for asking. We can start. So I make sure we get a lot of stuff in here. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining our Skin Sites into. I'm an avid user of Armada too since birth. um, and yeah, we'll be talking about sunscreens today. Please remember to ask your questions early. It's drizzling already. Yeah, it's going to rain. So please remember to ask your questions early. For VMV related questions, I will answer them before or after my mom's part, so that when she's here, we really concentrate on the science stuff, which is why she's here as our resource expert. Don't forget, please, to like us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get, I think we're at 890 now subscribers. We're trying to get to over 1,000. So I would really love if you guys can share with your friends and family and get us over that mark. Um, so, sunscreens. I'll jump right into it. Every time, and it happened again last night in Nepal, every time we're asked if you could pick one skincare product for like a person who really didn't want to do skincare, what would it be? And of course, the answer is always sunscreen. Virgin coconut oil might be a close second, but sunscreen would still win out. So we figured we'll do like a real A to Z about sunscreens. So it's a great opportunity, I think, to ask even the most basic questions, or stuff that you've heard but are not quite sure about. But why we recommend sunscreen, if you had to pick just one skincare product, why we would say sunscreen is really and truly, there isn't any other product that in one tube can do so much for you, right? So, among the things it does, prevents aging and photo aging. Most of what our skins go through, the fine lines, the wrinkles, the dark spots, is really from the radiation that we're exposed to. Prevents barrier defect. I know you guys have watched some of our live streams about the barrier and know how important it is for the skin, and oxidation, perioxidation, radiation. All of this is not great for our barrier. Also, sunscreen can help prevent and lighten hyperpigmentation, even. And this is why I think I would say it really sort of edges out VCO, is it prevents sun-induced skin cancer, which A, can kill you, because I think some people forget it's, if you don't catch it early enough and get rid of the mole or whatever, it can get to the bloodstream and it is really, really dangerous. And B, skin cancer really does affect all races. I like to remind people Bob Marley died of melanoma. And sometimes actually skin cancer can be more deadly on darker skin tones because it's found later. We don't tend to think about it. So we're not as vigilant, right, in monitoring moles and things like that. At VMV in particular, all our armadas from day one have been both sun and light screens. Um, and I remember sort of when we were making them, there were some fights in the family because one of the first ones was my mom wanting to make SPF 15 and 30, and my father and I, who loved to tan at the time, being like, but that's insane. Why would you ever want an SPF that high? At the time, 4 was considered adequate, right? So that was one. And the other one was when my mom said it has to be for indoor light and outdoor light. And I was like, there's just, that makes no sense whatsoever. Why on earth would you need sunscreen for indoor light? Thankfully, we lost those fights. And Armada sun and light screens, as I'm sure many of you have mentioned that you're users, are top sellers in so many markets. A quick note, actually, and this is interesting on why they're not in the USA at the moment. There are 3 main reasons. Unlike almost every other market, in the United States, sunscreens are considered over-the-counter drugs. And I still don't know why. I've heard there might be some politics involved, I'm not sure. The US has a monograph, because it's a drug. It has requirements where they're really unique in the world. No other market has this. You can't mix certain sunscreen ingredients. They literally have, as instructions, you can pick any combination of sunscreens from column A and they can mix together, or you can mix any combination of sunscreens from column B and they can mix together, but you can't mix across the columns. the studies in other markets don't quite support this. So to make that formulation, we feel would be a little inferior, but also we don't have the capacity right now to make one formulation just for the US and another for other markets. So that's one of the reasons why we're not in the US at the moment. Otherwise, you can find most of our Armadas. There's a page actually on vmvhypoallergenics.com where if you can receive a shipment outside the United States or you know someone who's traveling, you can receive Armadas and in another place. And also in the US, we just launched the Stay on Point skin base layer, which is like a physical barrier that can help somewhat with protection and it's really a barrier against contaminants and allergens as well. So if you want to shop our products, a reminder that you can find us on vmvhypoallergenics.com and vmvhypoallergenics.ph in the Philippines, and we're also on Viber, and you can also do pickup, curbside pickup. In the US and the Philippines, we have a really, I wish I had it. I meant to ask for it. I'm sorry. We have a really cute baseball cap that we're giving out when you shop, and then 20% off of all e-gift certificates. So if you would like to give VMV to someone, hint, hint, Father's Day is coming up. This is a nice option. Remember also that you can private message us your patch test results, and we can recommend customized recommendations for you based on your patch test results. And there's a lot going on actually in the Philippines. For our counters and stores, we have a sale that's ongoing, the glowing going gone sale. And then Armada 70 is back in stock, as is Id Monolaurin Gel, and Armada 45 and 60 should be back in stock by about next week. Our stores are sort of open. We're in lockdown, sort of. Anyway, some stores are open. Please check out the website to see. We have a store locator there that has updated news. And if you would like a teleconsultation with my mother or other doctors or nutritionists that we work with, then it was Tammy, sorry. Then, yeah, please let us know, and we can help make that happen. Sorry, this is funny. I was just mentioning earlier that I was on a live stream, an Instagram interview in Nepal last night, and someone had mentioned that they were from Maryland, and I thought, gosh, I wonder if that's Tammy, and it was, or at least she saw it. And yes, the dragon's blood serum was wild, so I don't know where to go with that. So finally, before I call in my mom, basically, y'all know a lot of you guys are already sort of master skintellectuals here, so you know to use sunscreen, sun and light screen daily, even indoors, because these lights and blue light, they're visible light and they cause hyperpigmentation. So please use them indoors. Know that certain things are really photoallergens, like bleaches, which waft up, so chlorine and stuff like that, can actually encourage more hyperpigmentation, which is why we see like people who work around pools, for example, and chlorine, they have really severe hyperpigmentation. Essential oils, aromatherapy are also big photoallergens. So you'll see lavender farmers, right? Or calamansi farmers, citrus farmers, sometimes really struggle with hyperpigmentation. So use it every day, even indoors. Armada Baby and post-procedure, just as a quick reminder, if your skin is very, very sensitive, we'll get into this later. I want to sort of break down what organic and inorganic means in sunscreens, but I'll do that with my mom because she knows better than me. And on that note, I will call in our resource expert and founding dermatopathologist, who's my mom, Dr. Verman Viralia Rawal. Hello. Oh, sorry, I have a crick in my neck. I don't know
Sorry, another one.
Okay.
Let's
Hi.
complete the
cycle.
the cycle. Yes. Hi, everybody.
Okay. So everyone knows she's way cool for many reasons that you already know. Multi-published, mega clinician, blah, 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 blah. But specifically for today, a little bit, specifically for today, what I think is way cool that you may not know, okay, is that many, many studies today in 2021 that are on really new groundbreaking things, particularly like on indoor light or layering, cite her studies from back in the 90s. So like way back in the early 90s, she was doing all these amazing studies in her book. This is from 2002, I think.
2001.
But it has
Published
these
2001.
studies from the 90s on visible light, on indoor light protection
And
and
infrared.
layering, and infrared. And if you really hyper research on just infrared, sunscreen protection, visible light, etc., her studies still are the ones, the major ones that pop up. So she was very ahead of her time. So there, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everybody. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so starting off, we'll
This
give.
is like talking about VCO, by the way. I
I
want you
know.
to know. I mean, like, oh my God, I'm going to talk about sunscreens. How
She gets
fantastic can
very
that be?
excited. Okay, so maybe an overview in terms of sunscreen ingredients. If that's okay with you guys, we start with something really, really basic. One of the things I really want to, I guess, put out there, because I find it still, people get confused, right?
Mhm.
When they say, I don't want chemicals on my skin,
Right.
right? And then they go, I don't want a chemical sunscreen. I
Mm.
don't quite think people know what that means.
Right.
Because there are two major classifications of sunscreen ingredients, right? You have organic, which doesn't mean what you think it means, and inorganic,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So, can you help us
Right.
explain what those two are?
And I'm going to bring you to the more advanced ones as well on
Tammy
sunscreens
says hi.
beyond that. Hi, Tammy. Okay. So the ingredients in sunscreens are basically traditionally addressing the sun outdoors, which basically produces the UVB that gets to us from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Then also the UVA from outdoors that also comes inside because it's also emitted by the mercury gas that's present in some of these lamps that we have. And so it is
But UVB also gets through the window, right?
yes,
Yeah.
not as
UVA does. UVB does
UVA
not.
does. UVB is pretty well
Mm-hmm.
screened. So, but UVA does also, and then there's the blue light, which is 800
But
to.
let's talk first inorganic versus organic. What
Okay.
does that mean?
Inorganic are chemicals that are either mostly synthesized. And what they do is they absorb the UVB and UVA. They're
That,
very
that's
strong chemicals.
chemical. That's
Those are
organic.
the organic.
Yeah.
And the inorganic are the ones that are also chemicals, but they are made of different kinds of molecules that are usually larger and usually have colors. So people have been playing around with it and coming out with nanoparticles and all that.
We'll talk about that later.
There are two basic functions in the old way we think of sunscreens. Let me just advance this kind of thinking already from now on, from here. There's the one that is purely passive in the sense that the chemical, whether it is organic or inorganic, just sits in the skin to ward off UVB, UVA, and all of these. Then beyond that, we began to realize that sunscreens passively also protect against pollution because we are surrounded by pollution from the pollution in the air, from industry, from cars, from soot, from whatever. So again, that's still passive. The newer things that you don't realize that are present in sunscreens are the active ingredients. And those active ingredients include
Mm-hmm.
antioxidants. Those antioxidants are very active in capturing and smashing the effect on the molecules that are in our epidermis and dermis so that hopefully the wrinkling, the sebaceous effect on the sebaceous gland by these chemicals or by these things that get to us are quenched the reactive oxygen species that they make. So there are the passive action, which is basically what we always think of as sunscreen, but the active is really the presence also of antioxidants. And now there are hybrids. Again, you may not realize it, but a number of our sunscreens are called hybrids in the sense that they contain not just antioxidants, but actually antioxidants that, in addition, have enzymes in them that help in correcting the effects inside the molecules that we have. If I may continue on the
I
effects,
need to back this up a little
okay,
bit.
I think it's time for Laura to explain all that a little bit more safely.
No, just trying to get back. So, the two main classifications of sunscreen ingredients organic and inorganic.
Right.
Organic, in this sense, does not mean organic, grown without fertilizer, natural, that's not what it means. So, when people say, I'm looking for an organic sunscreen, I'm not sure what they mean half the time, right? So organic strictly means these sunscreen active ingredients that tend to work by absorbing light,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they tend to be absorbed by the skin too.
Right.
Whereas um, inorganic sunscreens are really titanium dioxide and zinc oxide.
Mm-hmm.
And they sit on top of the skin. And they're also, if you want to think of them as physical or mineral, that's the main difference, right? So when you think about chemical sunscreens, again, very clearly, we're not talking about natural slash organic versus chemical. We're talking about a classification of sunscreen. Nowhere here are we talking about bad chemicals, harmful chemicals, toxic chemicals. So that's kind of the first thing I want to make sure is crystal clear with everybody,
May
right?
I add on to that?
Mm-hmm.
You use the word organic nowadays in two ways. Organic means molecules that made of carbons and all that, carbons and other things that are added to the carbon molecule in a chain that then make compounds. Those are organic. Inorganic usually is just one chemical: zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, iron oxide. So those are the inorganic, and they're usually larger chemicals. These are all chemicals. One organic
Everything in nature is
made of
chemical anyway,
compounds that
so
are come out from different kind of carbon chains and all of that. And the other one is inorganic, simpler, usually just one ingredient in it. Then that's one way of looking at of using the word organic. There's the other one which applies to how they are planted. You know, to
but that's
food,
that's
to
not what we're talking
yeah,
about.
just to
Okay.
be sure that people, you see, people come and say, "I want an organic," thinking, "I want an organic similar to the organic food I'm eating."
Mm-hmm.
Please, that's a different thing. The use of organic with food and agriculture, that's totally different. We're
Right.
talking about organic the way she
Right.
described it. Okay.
So the second big, I think, important thing to mention there is between organic and inorganic sunscreens, they both have pros and cons. But for visible light, she tends to really prefer inorganic sunscreens,
Right.
right? Because they have a much longer, they protect against a much, much longer wavelength of light.
Right.
So they're really better for indoor light.
Major things we use sunscreens for is the passive effect, which is they stay there, and for the UVB organic compounds, they absorb light, so they quench it that way. Whereas with the others, they scatter, and they reflect back, and so therefore the light doesn't go in. Either way, whether it's absorbed, scattered, or reflected back, they're all just sitting there. That's all passive, right? So the active is when the new things that are happening for these inorganic is that people don't like the color. They're white. They're they're not too attractive in the skin.
Sorry, inorganic again, guys. It's titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. If you've ever seen those things, it's thick and it makes you look really pale, right? It's very, very thick,
Right.
usually.
And so what's new is that people have therefore brought it down to very tiny sizes, molecules,
Nanoparticles.
nanoparticles, which is up to about 50 nanometers, and then 50 to 100 is kind of the borderline. 100 and up are the better ones. So, but then what they find about these nanoparticles is that they get absorbed in the skin, they get into the bloodstream, and they may produce problems with sex hormones that we have, and things like that. And so
May. The jury is
there's
still out.
yeah, there's the possible injury from nanoparticles, and so they therefore have addressed that by using adding other chemicals to coat them, like silicone or like what they call doped, chemicals,
Oh, I didn't
or
know that.
yeah, doped. They get another kind of of a chemical like zirconium, I think, and they coat it, and it changes the electronic signals or whatever. So it's like that.
There's a lot of new stuff.
A lot.
But okay, so again, right? So you have inorganics, you have organics. Pluses and minuses. Inorganics, mineral, physical, tend to protect better for indoor light, right? Wider range, longer wavelengths of light. But they do tend to be thicker
Mhm.
and whiter. Like they're really a block. They're like the old style sunscreens, really, really, really thick and heavy and white. The inorganics tend to go on much nicer, right? They feel really nice. They tend to be absorbed by the skin.
The organics.
The organics, that's what I said.
You said
I'm
inorganic.
sorry, the organics. Yes, the organics, the chemicals. And they tend to get absorbed by the skin more. But they're also the ones that tend to have more allergic reactions to them. So here's another thing that no one ever thinks about. The smaller the molecular size of something, the higher the risk of an allergic reaction because it can penetrate deeper into the skin. So chemical sunscreens, organic sunscreens, feel nicer. They absorb in the skin. They don't leave a white cast, but there's a higher risk of allergenicity, and yeah, shorter range of protection. Inorganics, wider range of protection, less risk of an allergic reaction, much thicker and whiter and harder to spread. What she was saying is true, though, that to address that, a lot of people now use nanoparticles, which are inorganic sunscreens that feel super light when applied, etc. The problem with nanoparticles is the studies are still not conclusive. There's a lot of debate as to, because they're so small in molecular size,
Mhm.
how much of them actually get through the skin or even to the bloodstream. So we're not big fans of nanoparticles yet, just in part because the studies are so initial still, right? And they're so small. So yeah, we're not quite sure what the risk is there, correct?
So now we have the added problem, again, still on the passive effect of these ingredients, is the adding now the blue lights and even the infrared have now been shown in multiple biopsies and studies that they're not just passively there, they actually act also in damaging the skin just as badly as the UVB outside.
And again, they're
Yeah.
quoting her studies from the early
Right.
90s. It's really
So
cool.
infrared and the visible light are equally harmful in producing oxidative changes,
Mhm.
and beyond the oxidation, with the reactive oxygen species be accumulating, they then go on to damaging the sebaceous gland. Your skin becomes drier. Um, this is way before cancer of the skin, by the way, from the UVB. We're really talking about aging, photo aging. It's a very important aspect that we ignore because this is something that actually can affect us even as children. Of slow, first the freckling, and then the little dark spots, and
Mhm.
then little fine wrinkles as we smile, and then as we go into our 20s and 30s, the little spots that appear again, and then the dryness of the skin, very oily at teenage time, and then the skin all of a sudden begins to become drier, and then little spots appear that look like warts, and then the warts become bigger and become sebaceous keratosis that you like to remove, or more skin tags appear, and all of that. That's all part of photo aging, folks, and the photo there includes outdoor sun and
And
indoor
indoor
lights,
lights.
that includes the infrared from your oven, cooking and baking inside as well. So these all are being addressed by sun and light screens.
Yeah.
And
So one thing I
yes.
want to address quickly, because we get this question a lot too,
Mhm.
is why not, or is using a sunscreen spray a good idea?
No,
Yeah.
simply because when you spray, we don't quite know the amount of the sunscreen ingredient itself that will reach the skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it may be a little bit more there and less here. And even when you spray, you don't normally then rub it in, do you? So
Well,
you
some people
some
do, but
people do, but it still has a different in the number of sunscreen ingredients that are present per drip per part that it's applied on. The best is really using an emulsion, whether it's a lotion that you like or a cream. Those are the better
yeah.
ones.
Just adding to that, most active ingredients, most sunscreen actives mix better in a cream base.
Hmm.
Not because you need a hydroalcoholic base to make a spray,
Hmm.
so it doesn't actually mix as well.
Hmm.
So that adds to the how
And then the
much is
alcohol is
evaporated.
evaporated.
So it really adds to the how much is actually getting on the skin. In
Exactly.
addition, depending on how thinly it's aerosolized, you might be inhaling some of that stuff. So yeah, no, it's not a good idea. I want to add here, benzene has been recalled in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little
Among
bit
other
about
things,
that?
benzene
Thanks,
is an
Jenna.
allergen and
Yeah.
it's also inhaled.
Yeah. So,
So yes,
yeah.
um, the there's the next ingredient we haven't really started to talk about is the iron oxide.
Mm.
Okay,
But
so
so the reason benzene was recalled was in part because there actually are health concerns associated
yes,
with it.
associated with they're
Yeah.
they're derived from petroleum,
Mm.
and yeah, this
She actually knows some interesting history about some of the politics behind why certain sunscreen ingredients are allowed and not. But we won't get into that because they involve other people.
politics.
Yeah, so we don't want to get in trouble. I'll do
Okay,
that separately.
right. So let's talk about therefore protection against the very very common problem that I was telling you about, the fact that subtly photo aging occurs even among the very young, especially now. They're studying on the computer all day or a couple of hours a day and then continuing to play with it through the rest of the day and watching television as well. So we'll have younger people getting photo aging over time with as our virtual experiences becomes widened
Yeah.
with COVID and beyond. People are beginning to recognize that young people nowadays really learn much faster and better with the virtual learning activities that we are now installing in universities and in our residency programs and all. So be aware of that. And so the first one that came out
Actually,
as a protection.
so Sam just had a question that's related to that. Maybe we can touch on that. I'm using my smartphone before bedtime. Should I add sunscreen to my nighttime regimen to prevent?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. I always tell my patients, keep that sunscreen, reapply it as needed. You know, if you're the kind who's sneezing and wiping your face, you have to
First,
reapply
stop
more
touching
often.
your face. It's
Yes.
COVID.
Okay. I don't normally, except on television, except on live stream with Laura. But then otherwise, wash thoroughly at night before you go to sleep already. And by the way, that's not a good thing for you to do of using your telephone just before you go to sleep because
It
it downs
interrupts
the
you.
it interrupts the circadian rhythm and the melatonin
You sleep less
doesn't come out
well.
more and you'll have a harder time going to
Yeah.
sleep.
What they say is put your phone about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour
At
before going
least
to
30
sleep.
minutes before.
Put it away from you and then read a book or do something else before going to sleep. But yeah, use the
And in
sunscreen
the
at
middle
night.
of the night, if you are like me that you wake up and go to the bathroom, I'm 82, but by following the rule that I do not look anymore in my phone when I wake up and go to the bathroom and do it all in darkness except maybe a little pen light, I go right back to the bed and I'm asleep again for the next 4 hours. So do that, not using any more light to stimulate.
But yeah, if you're on a gadget at night, you might need to reapply sunscreen at night as part of your nighttime regimen.
Correct.
Tammy, to your first question, yes, it can be. And then tinted sunscreen, says Cheryl, and I think this is where you were going
Yes, I
when
was
you were
going.
talking about iron oxides
Right.
on top of the physical sunscreens.
Right. Because the iron oxides are fantastic because they color, we use them for makeup. And so in 1979, for my 2001, 1989, 1988, 1999, for my 2001 Skin in the Tropics books, there's a chapter here on the layering of sunscreen. I felt, well, I know now from my outdoor and indoor studies, this was back in the 1990s, that the it's not just UVB and UVA, but actually visible and infrared light that affect the skin as well. And I said there are not too many ingredients yet at the time. We were hampered by lack of ingredients yet, except the ones that we were talking about. So I thought, what if I put iron oxide? Golly, those are even larger molecules, and we can get them as dark as we can. So iron oxide now, the latest, most recent for visible light is that you add iron oxide to for protection against particularly the visible light and infrared that you're exposed to
So yeah,
indoors.
tinted sunscreens are a
Right.
good idea. In
So
other
you
words,
layer them.
if the tint is iron oxide pigments,
Yes.
not if they're dyes, because dyes are
Yes. Yeah,
photoallergens,
you have to
right?
read. And if they are FD something, those are usual. Those are dyes. Those are not the ones. You might become allergic or photoallergic to them. Just as an example, I nowadays, and I want you to see this, I put on a baby kind of sunscreen, which is white when I put it on, and I spread it on very, very well
It's titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, a thick
after
paste.
the coconut oil that I put on as moisturizer for my 82-year-old relatively drier skin than before. So I put that on, and then I put on that baby sunscreen, which is white, but I spread it on very well. And then on top of that, I got for myself a makeup that has the darker one. I would normally not use it, but nowadays that's what I go and I put it on top of my white skin from the baby sunscreen. And when I put on, I look pretty normal, right? It's This is it. This is the sunscreen layered, the makeup
Okay. So
with the iron oxide layered on the
let's
white
add an important thing
titanium.
that you keep saying. She keeps saying layered. So let's tackle that a little bit. So tinted sunscreens are actually a really good idea if the tint is not from a dye, but really from an iron oxide pigment.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a good idea. But on top of that, layering is a great idea. Layering is like going out in the winter or a really cold air conditioned room. You have a layer of clothing, that maybe a t-shirt, and then a sweater, and then a jacket, and then a scarf, and then a hat, and then mittens.
And then a jacket
Yeah,
that's even thicker.
it's the same concept. Is the more you put, you really are adding physical layers to protect yourself against this radiation. So, going now, let's say to skincare and makeup, you can use, let's say, you do your skincare, you end with your sunscreen, right? And then on top of that, you put foundation and or concealer and or powder. Assuming you're not using dyes, this is actually, again, good for you because they're additional physical layers and they're additional iron oxide to help. It's like a cumulative protection, right? And similar to actually to what you do, I do the exact same thing. I use a very, very thick inorganic mineral sunscreen, very thick. That's sort of a pain to spread, right? But I'll do it after all of my creams and everything, so it's easier to spread. But I will still look like Casper the Ghost after, right? Or like The Grudge or The Ring. I will look like a creature. So on top of that, I actually do my VCO after because then I spread it. And then on top of that, I do a bronzer and a blush and then another bronzer.
That's layering.
So I don't look like a cadaver, is what I'm saying.
Believe it or not, I do this for the men as well. So
Oh my God, is that Michelle Season?
for my men patients, I tell them, I know you hate putting sunscreens on, but this is not a sunscreen. This is a set of product things that you will apply on your skin because they are so photo damaged. He said, you don't want to look like an ugly old scraggly
Oh,
man
good grief.
when you
Okay.
get into your 70s and your woman over there, your wife over there, your partner is looking very young because she's been
Anyway,
consulting
this
with
is
me.
of course assuming hetero relationships and cis men who are traditionally vain.
Anyway, teach your partner, teach your husband to also put them on because it will save you the trouble of the worry of later developing cancer, melanoma, and these other
Honestly,
problems.
everybody, your children,
Yeah.
right? From day one, get used to no pool without sunscreen first, or
Exactly.
no whatever without sunscreen
Sunscreen
first.
first. There should be a name. By the way, can I announce a kind of a contest for the best name for a sunscreen? It should no longer be called a sunscreen. It should be called a photo screen or a
There you
energy. You know, a
go. I
word
like
that's
that.
catchy to
But
to
explain
tell.
it's not just the sun.
Yeah, it's really not just the sun, but energy or light or heat. You know
There's
that
already
encompass-
so sun and light screen is an option that we use, but she's talking about radiation too.
right,
And
radiation, energy. You know, even the energies, by the way, of these machines that I am guilty of
Laser
having used them
machines.
as well. These lasers, they are also within the visible light spectrum. You know, there are some of them in the visible light spectrum, and going beyond that. I have been asked one time to attend a big meeting in our village to talk about big towers that were being set up that
Cellular
were
phones,
capturing the
yeah.
satellite, the
Cell
sound
phones.
waves. Okay, so we're talking now of radiation beyond infrared. So we have UV, visible light, infrared, right? Beyond that are the microwaves that we're using in our kitchen, and then into the ultrasound, the
Okay.
sound waves and all that. those are longer and longer wavelengths. They will probably produce their effects after 50 years. Like Madame Curie's X-rays was used to treat
Side
thyroid
radiance.
acne years ago, and when it was first discovered, 50 years later, the thyroid cancers appeared because the X-rays are really,
Oh, we have
you know.
such wonderful questions. I got to
Anyway,
get to
okay.
some of this. First of all, Michelle Sison, if you're Michelle that I know, I love you and hello. It's
Love
been
you,
so
Michelle.
long. Fantastic
I
designer,
love watching
phenomenal.
athletes
Oh God, super. Okay. And
and
also,
gymnasts and cook.
yes, and thank you, Leah. I do use it for the exact same
I need
reason.
to have a taste of some of those foods you're
Okay,
eating.
so
Maybe I'll order from
Jean
you.
is asking what particular specification should we look for in a sunblock perfect for oily or acne prone skin?
Okay. For acne prone skin, um, a sunscreen that doesn't say that says it's non-comedogenic is one.
Yeah, so okay, a few things here. One, she's right, just look for non-comedogenic.
Yeah, she'll explain
Uh,
comedogenic.
yeah, two, also look for something that's hypoallergenic because remember, and for those who've watched us before, you know this already, but this is your pore, comedogens, go in there and clog it up, right? So then eventually you get this thing and it's a clogged pore and then it develops into a comedone and acne, etc. But allergens and irritants can irritate the pore. They won't clog them the same way comedogens would, but they'll irritate it, right? Which can cause inflammation, then possibly infection and acne. So you do want to look for hypoallergenic or less allergens. But the other thing I wanted to say here is it may not be your sunscreen. Really, if you're oily skinned and acne prone, look at all of your products from your shampoo and conditioner, from your toothpaste, any other thing, because the, this comedone effect, right, where it keeps clogging and building, that doesn't happen overnight. So we get a lot of people who say, I used a sunscreen and I got acne the next day.
Mm.
That doesn't happen really. It tends to be
A
something you've
process.
already been using that has been clogging that pore over time. So it may not be the sunscreen. And the last thing I want to say is there are sometimes acne form irritations or acne form reactions to certain sunscreens, correct?
Right.
Because the occlusion is so much
Mm-hmm.
that the sweat something something. You told me this before.
Right. But even more important, I
But what
think.
is the acne form eruption that happens with sunscreen sometimes?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. So
Excuse me.
acne form eruptions are not acne. It's
Right.
what it sounds like.
Okay,
It
this is
looks
what
like
acneiform
acne.
reactions is. If you have acne, just remember to always look for the cause. You know, whether it's a teenager or a young adult or an adult or rosacea acne or whatever. There are so many causes. It can be really external, like what she's been discussing, but it could also be internal due to
That's true.
PCOS and diabetes, due to the drugs that you're
Hormones.
taking, producing acneiform drug eruption. There you go, and so
Yeah.
if you have an acne that refuses to go away, please stop buying things
Yeah.
directly
Talk
from
to your
drugs. Go
dermatologist.
see your
It may not even
dermatologist.
be acne.
That's right. There you are. It may not be acne. It may be
Exactly.
eruptive syringoma or eruptive this
Eruptive
trichoepithelioma
seringoma, people.
or
New
eruptive
phrase of the day.
trichoepithelioma.
Okay.
So,
Ruth is asking, is the reapplication of sunscreen dependent on how hot the day is, or is it regardless of the weather?
depends upon. Usually we say every 2 hours if you're
Yeah.
really out in the sun and sweating and active and all that. So we average it to about after 2 hours. Or if you're in and out of the water, it
Mm-hmm.
after coming out
Yeah.
of the water, reapply,
Yeah.
because even though sunscreens say that they have been tested in the water, and I've done that. We've done water testing. I've actually done in vivo, I mean outdoor sunscreen testing with the people going in and out of our pool, in and out of our pool, and all that. And we've also done it on bathtubs, which is what other people usually do. But on our tropical weather, I wanted to see what it would be outdoors in our pool and indoors, and there is still some protection, but after a couple of times, reapply it. Don't just
Part of it is also the
wait for 2 hours.
rubbing off.
The
Right.
toweling and all that.
So the American Academy of Dermatology, if you go to their website, aad.org, they still have their standard guidelines, which is really, and Europe also shares this. Avoid the sun or avoid really being outdoors
Yes.
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Avoidance.
Reapply regardless of the weather. It could be really cloudy, but remember UVA gets through on cloudy days that are kind of cool, right? And in the middle of winter, You can have a very bright sun on ski slopes, and then you have glare, so you get
Double.
exposure double.
The same thing
So
with being in the pool or
or
being in the water.
at sunset on the
Right.
beach, right?
Right.
So the standard AAD guidelines are reapply every hour or two and after swimming or toweling off. So that I think
Every two
applies.
hours in, I guess, in wintry sun, but
Mm-hmm.
in the tropics, every hour would be nice.
Okay, so Jackie, okay, this is, I will answer that later because it's a product question. Um, okay. How will my, yes, thank you, Ryan. I was hoping someone would ask this. How will I know if my sunscreen is safe for the coral reef? For
Ah,
example, Hawaii prohibiting the use of some
I
sunscreens.
know. Hawaii,
Such an important question. Thank you for asking that.
Hawaii, because of oxybenzone and ectinoxide,
Yeah.
those two particular ingredients have been shown to be damaging to the coral and therefore
Yeah.
ecologically in the water ecology is not so good. Um, there you go. Then you use the physical sunscreens.
Yeah. So here's, okay, so right now,
That's an organic,
yeah.
So use a physical sunscreen. I love physical sunscreens, by the
I know.
way.
So, okay, we're here. A few things there, Ryan. Number one, the studies, thankfully, are continuing, but right now there aren't a lot. So there's no definitive proof on what makes a sunscreen more or less reef safe, right? The studies that we've seen imply, which is why she was mentioning, physical inorganic sunscreens are better. Because remember, these are larger molecules, right? Um, so less likely to kind of get diluted and stay in this water forever, ever, 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 ever. Um, Go ahead.
Let me add one more ingredient that we haven't really talked about. If you look at the ingredients list in your sunscreen and you see names that are weird or unusual or whatever, those may be the plant derived antioxidants that are added. Remember, I was telling you about earlier that active sunscreens now include antioxidants. And many, if you remember, there really are amazing antioxidants present in plants. Extracts of leaves, extracts of these plants. Because, like I've always said, and you're probably bored of it, the plants can't walk out, can't walk away from the sun and get shielded like you and I should. They are out there. So they have potent antioxidants. So some of them are enzymes as well, and some of them are really just antioxidant. So those are chemicals that they add. So ginger root, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, and things like that are added onto
Right.
them. And things from coconuts, for
But
instance, I use and
going back to the reef issue, though, Ryan, I'd be a little careful because there are some people now, some brands that do claim reef safe. There is no methodology that is approved yet to
yes,
determine what reef safe
maybe they
means.
just mean that those particular chemical ingredients are absent in their product. But
Maybe. We don't
maybe
know.
we don't know.
And it's not a term that is regulated by the FDA in the
Right,
United States or elsewhere.
right.
So when you see the term reef safe, I would approach that with a little bit of caution. I would really look at the ingredients. I would try to contact the company and see what they're talking about. But what we do know from the studies that we have seen is that larger particle inorganic sunscreens seem to be the safer option.
One last thing that's very important. I know there are a lot of people out there, companies as well, who follow recipes and come out with sunscreens and they say that this is effective and that, and then they go to their local FDA to have them approved based upon previously studied formulations and a product testing. That's not a proper
Yeah, you
sunscreen for
gotta
you
do
to
the
use. You've
proper.
got to go to a
Yeah.
better company that when you look at it and read it, the language is so clear that it is a product that they actually made and they actually tested.
So yeah,
Those are the kinds of, I mean,
getting
this is your
yeah,
skin we're talking about.
getting into it a little bit in terms of the manufacturing side, sunscreen active ingredients can be real divas. They don't like it when they're mishandled or like in this emulsion or that emulsion or in preheated this or that or the other thing. Therefore, simply copying the recipe of one brand and replicating it might not give you the same protection factors.
Right.
You need to test that particular formulation. The dispersion may not have
The
worked, the
way you make it.
mixing, yeah, it's very different. So, hi, Madison. She's graduating today, so she's coming in.
I have something
I'm so
some things like,
thrilled.
hello.
She kind of kicked butt. She got herself a scholarship. She got
She's
excellent
number
awards.
one in
She's-
everything
okay.
and got the highest
I
award
know.
of the school.
I'm sorry.
Glad
Allow
for
us this
the-
little
you.
moment of boasting. So
to
anyway,
share that
going
with
back
you.
to the quickly because it's
Grandma
10,
is so
it's
proud.
10:52. Okay, so make sure FDA's anyway normally require you to submit tests for your own particular product. So make sure that that is required. Why is she going? Okay, so anyway,
Sorry,
uh,
I just need to think of something.
okay. All right. So quickly, Leah is saying, I notice when I use sunblock, somehow I feel the heat of the sun less compared to when I don't use it. I don't know why that might be. You know why it might be is because some sunscreen ingredients reflect, they bounce
Yes,
back the
that
sun.
could
the
well
heat.
be.
So it might be that. I think that's actually an interesting thing to study.
Yeah, well, to ask and
Mich-
observe.
Michelle is sorry. TJ is asking, is SPF 100 dangerous?
You see, you should never go by just the, a lot of
Yeah.
people say, oh, but I'm already using 150 SPF. We don't really care because it's the protection against the entire thing that we just talked about.
Right.
It's not just the sun outdoors, it's the indoor energy
So it's
as
UVB,
well.
UVA. It's so okay. Here's the thing.
And SPF, supposedly SPF 15
That's
at
where I
30
was
is
gonna go.
enough.
So okay, there was a study that came out that showed SPF 15 already protects you from 99% or whatever of
93%
UVB.
and
Right.
96% for
But
at
that's
30.
still just UVB. That has nothing to do with UVA,
Exactly.
and it's not visible light and infrared heat. Number one.
Exactly.
Number two, SPF is tested by a radically weird amount of sunscreen applied
2
on.
milligrams per centimeter square.
That's like
So
a shot
thick.
glass of sunscreen. A shot glass of sunscreen applied for the body. Ain't nobody know how. I don't care who you
Going to
are.
place 2
Correct me
milligrams.
if I'm wrong in the comments. I want to see if any of y'all actually apply a shot glass full on your whole body. Another study in the British Journal of Dermatology said, okay, so the SPF 15 will get you quite far. The problem is that's assuming a shot glass full. If you apply less of that, you could be cutting the protection factor by half. Okay,
Yes.
so SPF 100, sure, is great for UVB. But what is the UVA? What is the visible light? What is the infrared protection? Second, what else is in that formulation? So is SPF 100 dangerous? SPF 100 per se is not dangerous, but it may not be enough, believe it or not, if it also doesn't protect against UVA and visible light. And what else is in the formulation? If it has fragrances, you're inviting hyperpigmentation. If it has dyes, preservatives, etc., etc. So
Henry Lim actually had an article where he said
Dr. Henry Lim.
Dr. Henry Lim of Henry Ford Hospital actually had a paper a while back where he said, you can't fight people not using a whole shot glass. So he said, yes, they can use the higher number, 120 or whatever, put that on, and then they tested how much is actually from the little bit that's actually applied, how much is it actually protecting. And there seems to be a good correlation that it may improve the...
Lots of these studies,
Yeah.
really. We'll look at more. Okay, wait. I want to get through the other questions because they're good. This is from Michelle. Love you, Tita Verm. Love you too, Michelle. Okay, so do you recommend oral sunblocks in case I'm unable to reapply topical sunblocks when out in the open field?
Yes, I love antioxidants, you see. You can take it, but it can only give you an SPF of about 3 at the most 5. I'll tell you something though. I am doing a series of studies now. You wait for it for another year that is going to get on another botanical product because that oral sunscreen you're talking about is derived from a South American plant. We have plants that are equally good, if not better, because we have also tropical weather here. So I chose a very nice product, a tuber, and we're going to be doing a study on that and comparing it with this oral product that you're talking about.
Okay, so oral, yes, but look at the science, make sure it's good. Gavin just
And
graduated
not just that,
yesterday.
because like I said, the
from primary
SPF is
school.
only at the most 3 to 5.
Right, so you need more anyway. You do need the topical,
You need the topical.
or wear a rash guard and a hat and stuff. Gavin graduated from primary school yesterday. Yay! He also did very well, so
Yay!
we're very proud.
Right
Okay.
here from Beacon.
Okay, TJ is
Angry.
asking, spray
I'm so
sunscreens or cream sunscreens? We answered this earlier, TJ. Spray is not reliable because most active ingredients for sunscreens mix better in a cream formulation. You don't know how much in the little particles is actually getting to your skin, and you might inhale it. So no, it's not recommended. Congratulations to Madison. Thank you. I will tell you. I think we're good. Are recently or newly expired sunscreens still safe to use?
Sure.
From Celeste. Yes. Okay, so I love this
L-
question.
do we have something already on expiration dates?
You want to do a whole
I
live
would
stream on
love to do an
expiration? Why don't
expiration
we
date.
do a live stream on expiration dates and other cosmetic claims? That might be
Yes,
interesting.
expiration
Let me know,
dates.
please, in the comments if that's interesting for you guys. We'll schedule it.
And don't
Expiration.
forget, yeah, that thing. We'll give you a sunscreen. I'll leave that to her about that raffle. For give me a good name for what a sunscreen should be called, rather
Okay.
than just a sunscreen.
So expiration dates on cosmetic products are actually not even required if they have a shelf life of longer than like 24 months or something like this. This is because, in part, skincare isn't food. It doesn't rot. It's not like if you put a banana on a shelf and you just leave it there and it will rot, right? Skincare has some sort of preservation, either self preserving, what we use, or has additional preservatives. So they tend to last quite a long time. This is truer the less water is in a formulation. Some products that have active ingredients, therapeutic products or drugs, right? The concern there is that the efficacy of the active might lessen over time. But even when you're looking at oral drugs, a dirty secret that doctors don't tend to tell you is that they will drink expired drugs. I mean, nothing too crazy, right? Not like 2 years expired or whatever, but
Up to 6 months is okay.
up to six
Beyond
months.
expiration date.
Yeah, it's totally fine. So thank you for that
I've done
question.
1 year, but it's really kept in a very cold place, and
Michelle will have
anyway.
Viva products. I'll totally. And you're very welcome, TJ. And it is 10:58, so I will let you go. She's
Wow.
doing 3 studies now for VCO and COVID, so I have
in
to let her go.
severe to critical COVID in a 3-center
Holy
hospital
moly.
study. It's fantastic.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mwah, everybody. Michelle?
Okay, folks, I had a question earlier that I can get to now, which is Armada 70 versus 45. Armada 70 is purely organic, and Armada 45 is a mix of both. So for indoor light, we would prioritize 45. If you're really going to be in extreme heat and stuff outdoors, 70 would probably be the better bet because there would be a lot more UVB versus everything else. On that note, folks, it is 10:59. I want to make sure I don't keep y'all for way too long. Please keep the questions coming. We do check back on the comments after the live stream, and check out our blog, vmvinskin.com. Lots of info there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're doing videos every week and definitely respond. We do respond to your questions. So God bless. This was wonderful. I loved all these questions. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next week for another live stream. Take care. Bye bye.